Okay, here comes my favorite part of the course, which is the Shakespeare Summary Project. Your assignment, you must summarize a Shakespeare play, an entire play, 5 acts. You must summarize that play in 15 minutes or less. I set that boundary up expecting people to really get it done in 9 to 11 minutes, right? Um, you do not have time to tell me everything that happens in the play. That's a 2-hour performance. You don't don't just tell me the shortest version possible. I'm expecting to see highlights. Now, which plays will this be? This will be any of the following and perhaps some other choices, but I'm anticipating that um, it used to be that I had everybody do a different play. And since you're not actually in the same environment, most of you, it's kind of irrelevant whether you do the same play or not. In fact, it's probably not a bad idea that more than one of you work on the same play, because then you could work with each other and bounce ideas off of each other. So let's try that. Okay, so Romeo and Juliet's probably the number one play that most people think of when you think of Shakespeare. Hamlet's maybe right up there. Um, and here's my list. Taming of the Shrew, The Tempest, King Lear. That's good to start with. We've had a lot of people do Othello. It's possible. I'm trying to keep it to the top 5, the ones I just mentioned. Um, but we'll see what we need to do. So other possibilities could include Othello, could include Macbeth. The witches scenes are interesting, and if done well, the whole thing can be pretty engaging. Of course, all that's true in all of these. Midsummer Night's Dream, and Julius Caesar. So that's like the top 9 right there, right? We got 4 and 5. So, and I'm probably forgetting your favorite, and I'm sorry about that. So if you really want to argue for your favorite, you may do so. But I'm not a fan of the comedies where they're all the same story, right? Love's Labor Lost, Much Ado About Nothing, and all those where, well, yeah, maybe some of them have Falstaff and some of them don't. But other than Falstaff, the story is these people are in love with each other, but they don't get married until the very end because of all the kinds of plots and things that seem to scheme against them ever getting together. And sometimes there's cross-dressing, and sometimes there's secret identities, and sometimes, blah, blah, blah. But in the end, the main characters get married, all the sub-characters get married, and except for the horrible person that we've been making fun of who never gets married. There you go. That's the story. It's always the same. Not very interesting to me. And so, please don't choose those. Now, what can you do with these stories? You do amazing things with these stories. And you're thinking, but I've only got 15 minutes. Exactly. You only have to do this for 15 minutes. No more. And so let's think about the finished work, and then we'll get to the pieces of the assignment. Finished work should be something that's visually engaging, right? That's what we're going to do with the music. That's what we're doing with Shakespeare. So it should capture your audience's imagination and attention, and that means you can change the settings, you can change the time, right? It could be modern times, it could be a different, previous to the actual historical time of the play. I don't know that there's that much interesting to go further back in time, but maybe you want to do it in the 1930s in Chicago, and everybody's carrying around machine guns, and you got Al Capone running things. Or maybe you want to do, I don't know, West Hartford in early 1800s with the School for the Deaf just getting set up. And you want deaf characters. And, after all, you're generating a message in ASL. You can have deaf characters. You could have Romeo might be a deaf person, and Juliet might be, I don't know, she might be an English-based signer. Or she might be hearing and she learns how to sign from Romeo, right? And you've got conflict because of family, so we don't want my daughter marrying one of those deaf people. No, I don't want my son marrying one of those hearing people. Of course, that argument never gets up. We just know Juliet's our families. Anyway, you get the idea. So you get to have deaf characters if you want. You can bring in deaf cultural connections. That's great. My score form has bonus points for doing so. It's not required, but hey, bonus points are bonus points. So give me a deaf character and a little bit of deaf culture stuff in there, and you can get your bonus points. Make everybody deaf and different aspects of culture revealed. That's fine. I don't have any extra bonus points to throw at you, But the idea is when people are done, they should actually have a video that a deaf person would be willing to watch the whole story and say, well, that was fun when it was over, right? It should tell the story. You can change the names, but you need to tell the story. So Romeo and Juliet needs to have star-crossed lovers who aren't supposed to be with each other, and they are, and they break the rules, and one of them is supposed to marry somebody else because of tradition, and so they fake a death, and but we don't get the word to the other one that it's a fake death, and so that one person thinks it's real, and then they kills themselves, and then the first person sees that and kills themselves, and gosh darn it, all the people that you wanted to live didn't. Now, do you want to then have Romeo be male and Juliet female? Great, more power to you. You want to mix and match, switch things around? I don't care. I mean, I'm assuming we keep everybody human. I'm not really looking for interspecies things, so let's not go too wild here. But other than that, it's fair game. You do deaf, hearing, male, female, countries of origin in different places. I've had one person tell a story of Othello based in the Caribbean because they were from Jamaica and they wanted the war battles to be around Jamaican and Caribbean islands rather than Mediterranean, and so she changed it up that way. I've had Julius Caesar be a signed English kind of guy, and the rest of the Senate are staunch ASLers. And I don't care for this English guy being in charge, and they decide to stab him to death because of it. Okay, so, great. So, oh, did I say Hamlet? Hamlet, too. So, I'm expecting that there are key scenes that, people think of the play, you're thinking, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo? Which means, why are you Romeo, not where are you physically located? Down here, climbing up underneath your balcony. No, why would thou have to be Romeo? Why do you have to be a Montague? Why couldn't you have been somebody that could be allowed to marry? That's what she's asking. But it's the balcony scene, right? And Juliet is the stars in the sun, whatever that quote is. And then you have Friar Lawrence who's saying, there art thou happy. You're still alive. You banished you might be, but you art alive. Juliet is alive. You still have a possible future together. There art thou happy. Right? Stop wallowing in your misery. Hamlet. I'm expecting we're going to see Polonius get stabbed behind the curtain. That we're going to see the thrilling scene at the end of the conclusion where there's a sword fight and Mom drinks poison and Uncle Dad gets poison in his ear and admits to having killed his brother, and Hamlet ends up giving up the ghost, and then there's a new king in town, and that's the end of the story. So there. If you're doing Macbeth, then I need to see the forest move at the end somehow. You need to reveal that that's going to happen, and that therefore he's happy that he'll be king forever, because how could the forest possibly move? And then it does, and he's dead. Yeah, everybody dies. And Taming of the Shrew. I need to see the transformation of Katharina from the shrew to a cooperating, not dominated, but cooperating spouse in an equal partnership marriage, which is all that Petruchio is trying to do, in my understanding and my preferred versions of the play. It's a play about becoming equal team members, and not about one person dominating another. You can play it the other way. I don't think it's. I think it's a much less interesting play if you do it that way, because I don't think we learn anything if it's just a play of submitting to some ruffian. But nonetheless, you're in charge of you're in charge of the play, and so Tempest, we need to see that we've got this anger, and we're controlling the elements, but we're essentially enslaving other people to control those elements, and that maybe it's time for me to give up trying to be in charge of these things and be responsible to my birthright, which was to be a member of government. Okay, you get the idea. So you're going to tell the same story. Here's a great resource for you. How do I tell the story in 15 minutes or less? Well, look this one up. Thug Notes. All the Shakespeare plays have Thug Notes on them. And Thug Notes is just an entertaining short summary, but in about 5 minutes, this guy will walk you through the main points of the story. Will there be every character in the notes? No. It'll be complete wild omissions. Whole characters have no part anymore. Most of the subplot is gone, right? In fact, probably most of the time the subplot is gone. Well, in Romeo and Juliet, we never see Rosaline. Do we even need to mention her in your summary? Right? Who cares? She's not even. She don't ever assign an actor to that role. Let's not even bother mentioning the character. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, right? Great comedy in the midst of Hamlet. Don't have time for it. So it's a distraction. It doesn't advance the main plot. Move on. Get on without it. Right? We've got some main characters that are there from the beginning, and we see them all the way through the play to the end. Stick with those. Don't worry about any of the minor characters. Thug Notes will guide you to that process. Not a bad starting point. Do you need to actually read the play? It wasn't my intention. That's a long slog to get through actual written Shakespeare, and will probably be a major distraction to you getting anywhere to what you want. No, I want an entertaining ASL summary of it. So start with a summary of it. There. That's the task. Now, how do you accomplish the pieces? What I want you to do first is generate just the opening. How are you going to engage your audience and set the scene? Who are the main players? Get me into a place where a conversation is taking place between characters, and the conversation needs to advance the plot, and you need to have helped me figure out. So I need to know who and where, and maybe some of the why these people are here. And you can also, a good ASL version of a story will preview what the point is, right? So this is a story about so-and-so and whatever, lost love, the tragedy of expecting grandeur to be given to you without being earned. There's some moral to this story, whatever makes sense to you. Should be previewed to the student. That's what the story is about. It's about these two characters and this theme. And then, so, in the mountaintop, high on the top of an island, we see two people, and one is an older man and one is a young woman, and the old man is conjuring wildly with his arms the weather that's focused on a boat in the ocean, and the boat, and the people in the boat are scared, and there's lightning strikes, and the boat gets struck by lightning and splits in half, and one half goes to one half of the island, the other half goes to the other half of the island, and they don't know that each other's alive. But controlling it all is the guy on the top of the mountain, and begging for forgiveness and patience and peace is Miranda, the daughter. There, that's my opening to Tempest. I've got, cut to the chase, cut to the scene, engage me in the first 10 minutes of a good adventure movie, right? You take any Marvel movie, any big blockbuster movie, and you've got some massive thing that's happening at the beginning that's almost as intense as the climax, which is going to be an hour and a half later. But it fully engages you and it pulls you in, right? Okay, you should open with something like that. There should be something going on. Romeo and Juliet. Oh my goodness, these two people, these servants are about to have a duel, and the prince comes out and says, "Yo, no more duels. Anybody who tries this again, you're out." And we lay the foundation for what Romeo's going to be fighting against. How do you? Well, there you go. How do you do that? So you got 5 minutes to open your story. Maybe you get all the way through the first act. Maybe you just do the first scene. Maybe you skip the first scene and you get to the first scene with your primary characters in it. Okay, you're in charge of picking and choosing which elements we look at. You're going to focus your audience attention on these key elements. You choose the elements. So you'll put that up on video. I generate a video feedback, and the video that I generate typically will preserve one or two ideas out of what you were going to do and eliminate all the rest of them and give you some other ideas to work from. That's my normal pattern. And maybe I'll actually have some other videos that can key you into just do it this way, and then we can confirm those. Second draft. Once you've gotten feedback and had some time to think about it, you generate your second draft. The second draft is Acts 1 through 3. Or thereabouts. I'm not going to be strict about, that's technically in Act 4. But it should be, stuff that advances the plot and lets me see how you're going to move through the story. Maybe a little bit of premonition to the ending here. But other than that, it's up to 10 minutes. I'm not going to look at any more than 10 minutes. Probably won't even look at 5. but you don't know which 5. And so the idea is that I've seen you put an effort into this, you've got a plan, and we're going to try to fine-tune it and streamline it, make it a bit better. Lots of people panic because, like, well, I've already got 15 minutes and this that only gets me through Act 3. How am I going to... Well, probably at this point I'm saying, okay, you're telling me about these minor characters. Get rid of them entirely. That'll take 2 minutes out of here, a minute out of there, and 3 minutes out of there. Now you're back under the timeline. The third draft will be the whole thing. But it's a dress rehearsal. It's, here's my plan for the whole thing. Could you take a look at it? Yes, I can. And then the final performance is, okay, here's my last chance. This one gets the full out score with the expectation that could be up for public view. We're not going to put these up for public view anymore, largely because I can't control the quality of the videos that you're making, and I don't want bad quality videos representing Troy to the world. I'm not talking about your performance, I'm talking about just the quality of the video itself, the background, the setting, and so forth. But on top of that, anymore with scamming and people stealing identities and things like that, I don't need to put more information out there that will put you at risk, and so we're just not going to publish these anymore. But you do your best quality work that you can, and it's my intention that I will have other people generate the scores for this. However, how do I compensate them for participating in the process? That depends. Typically I use people who've gone through this before to rate the following people so that they feel a sense of continuation and ownership into the quality of the classes that come behind them. We'll see if I'm able to recruit people in that way. And if not, it'll just be good old me again, looking at your work and seeing how you did. That's the process. That's the task. Have fun with it. In the end, the method to the madness on this one is that I want you to be able to look back on this and say, I've interpreted Shakespeare. You can't throw anything at me that I can't do. And that you have a certain boost of confidence that says, you know, with prep time and knowledge ahead of time, I can tackle any task. Just because it's Shakespeare doesn't mean I can't do it. You can absolutely summarize the story, watch the thug notes. It's a great starting point.